And so, another night has come and gone. When we last left off, our villains were being pursued by the Revenant Blacksmith, whom, as a matter of fact, well, he wasn't doing too good because, you know, he had kind of died and been brought back as a terrible, terrifying zombie that we had to escape from because we had already gotten our mission objective, and fighting him would have been really silly and pointless because we didn't need to. So, we ran, and as we ran, the slowest among us was our dear Commander Warmonger. Fortunately for us, he had brought the mini Zeppelin, or it was in mini form Zeppelin, and he blew it back up to normal size after having brought it along, got inside of it, shrunk, and flew away while somewhat leading the blacksmith away from us. However, all of us, like the whole party, which included Vyers and Becky and Ramona and freaking Slayer, and I can't remember the new character, that the guy who used to be running Blindside. I can't remember his character's name yet because it's a new character, so I need to remember what he is. But anyways, he was with us, so was Mr. Smith and everybody, and we got into the dropship, and as it was taking off, the blacksmith pulled together his powers, he grabbed his hammer, and he threw it full force at the entire dropship, smashing into us. It rocked the whole thing. It wounded the ship itself, but very quickly thereafter, being shaken and stirred around, so to speak, we ended up rocketing off into the stratosphere nice and safely. But then we ran into another interesting little problem, which was the fact that as we flew towards Star City again, because we were heading back to Star City from having visited near the coast of Maine, there were just all kinds of alien ships in the air everywhere, all around the whole place, because they were putting that crap on lockdown after the ridiculous stunt we pulled by going into their base and having our ghostly friend Mr. Smith go through and grab that thing, which he stole away, and Dr. Destroyer actually stole away with him. He wasn't with us, I just remembered that. He wasn't actually with us. He was with Dr. Destroyer, who dragged him through the sky and flew towards the streets of the city and teleported down onto it, and then he promptly set Mr. Smith down and teleported the fuck away, and he's just, you might want to keep your head down, to which Mr. Smith promptly turned himself into a rat and crawled off into the sewers so that he could find his way back towards one of our bases. So, meanwhile, us that were in the air in the Zeppelin, we were trying to figure out what we were gonna do so that we could actually get back to base. And thankfully Commander Warmonger pulled through. He brought his Zeppelin towards the dropship, and in several trips he picked everybody up and took everyone back, and then the dropship left because that belonged to Dr. Destroyer, and we got back into the base. We were given some congratulation, but we were not given any money because the entire thing was our fault, so to speak. And after that happened, as it turned out, we took a little bit of a breather, you know, took time to settle things in, and as we were doing so, as our commander was doing his usual business on the black market of buying and selling weapons, etc., so on and so forth, he got a contact from another supervillain called Mr. Fish. He requested to meet at a somewhat neutral location because he wanted to talk with us for some reason or the other. And so Warmonger, of course, agreed to meet him, and so he went with a couple of his minions, and Mr. Fish arrived. He was like this tremendously huge fat guy in a suit, and you know, he kind of talked like this because he had no choice but to do so with all the heavy weight he was carrying around within him. And so he talked with Warmonger, and you know, he kind of asked him some very important questions. Mostly he was asking him, you know, do you feel good with what you do? Do you consider what you're doing for a greater good, or is it just for fun for you, you know? And Warmonger was saying, you know, I remember how it was back in the day when we didn't have to be so covert, when you used to be able to make a grandstanding impression, when you lived and expected to be treated like a king as a villain, you know, because you'd have all the flashy fanfare, you'd go and you'd do your thing and not have to worry about being oppressed by the terrible regime of the Vizori. So, anyways, they talked for a while, and Mr. Fish decided, you know what, I will entrust something to you. But, as I entrust it with you, I only hope that I am giving it to the right man and not to the devil himself. And so, what he ended up giving to us was a little note, which gave us a clue where to find something in an alleyway, which seemed like trash, but when we picked it up from the location, we discovered all kinds of complex machinery and parts and bizarre little doodads and trinkets. So of course, we had Warmonger go through and take a look at it, because he's got pretty good engineering skills. And as such, he went through and looked over the stuff, figured out how to put it together, and we discovered that it basically was a teleporter device, but it had no stabilizer. It needed some kind of a shell or something to actually make it stabilize and work properly, and we kind of put two and two together and figured that the item that we had stolen, that was a canister looking thing with Dr. Destruction in our prior mission, must have been the missing part of the teleporter. So we deconstructed the thing into pieces, and we went through and we contacted Dr. Destroyer. My character went through and was basically the face man, saying, look, we found something that may be of interest to you. And as Myers was presenting the item, Warmonger went through and, like, you know, had it shown off in like a special glass case, all nicely presented in all of its pieces and whatnot. Of course, Destroyer recognized what it was pretty immediately, considering that it was indeed a thing that he had been looking for very intently. So, we arranged a drop-off point to deliver it to him. After we had done that, he said, I'm going to have something for you lot to do within a week. This makes up for a lot of the trouble that you've caused. We were no longer on his shit list, so to speak, because we managed to unscrew things up to a nice degree. And so he explained to us that it was indeed a teleporter, and he expected us to meet him at a certain place that we needed to go through the sewers to get to. And when we met him there, he was going to send us on a mission to get something for him. So we go out, and because of so many people being in the party, due to the both having the Zeppelin was not big enough for everyone, unfortunately. But my character was able to drive a car carrying along everyone else who needed to go along in the car. And so, of course, he ended up getting stopped by a police officer on the way, and he pretty much smooth talked his way out of getting the car searched for anything dangerous, thankfully. And after that, made it to a checkpoint where he once again had to smooth talk another guard. Did perfectly well without any trouble. Once that was managed, we made our way through the sewer, and we got to where Dr. Destruction was waiting for us. And when we got to where he was waiting for us, he basically was operating the teleporter and sending us one by one through it. On the other side, the place that he sent us was to an abandoned teleporter in Atlantis, or the ruins of Atlantis, that had been mostly destroyed by the Vizori. And the first thing that we were to do was to get through a passage that had a broken pipe. Well, not broken. It wasn't broken yet, but spoilers, it became broken. Because what we had to do was, we realized that it was structurally unsound, but we could possibly get through it one by one. And so we mostly did that. And then, as my minions were making their way through, one of them screwed it up, and the thing broke. We managed to get ourselves up against the walls, and there was all kinds of insanity, because when the pipe broke, we were way at the bottom of the ocean, and water was flooding in everywhere, all over the place. So Warmonger ended up searching for a panel that helped him find out where the emergency safety would be to actually protect the tube again. And he figured it out, but he also found out that there was a problem, because he needed a wire to be connected from one side to the other. Thankfully, Becky had the ability to teleport, and so she teleported to the other side. She was about to get swept away in the current, but Mr. Smith grabbed a hold of and helped save her, while turning himself into a very strong octopus so that she wouldn't get, blown away. Once she got a hold of the wire that she needed to, she teleported back across the chasm that was mostly broken, and we got the emergency cutoff to work properly, and it sealed up the pipe, and we were able to walk through and down into the stairwell that led us to the broken ruins of, like, the Temple District area of Atlantis. And we made our way partially through in what was mostly darkness, and as we were making our way through, we heard some Finns coming, and we saw an entire group of them heading back towards the way that we had come down, and, well, they were checking out what exactly had happened there. And we needed to figure out a way, well, we still need to figure out a way to deal with them, because if they get up there, there's a good chance that they could cut off our only way of getting the hell out. And right about where we were deciding what we were actually going to do is when about we ran out of time. So just like the game itself, looks like this is it for this video. I will see you again next week. I hope you enjoyed yourselves listening to this silly story. The video probably doesn't matter that much as listening to the story, at least. But have yourselves a good one, and catch you next time.